Well, this is the second try I'm going to do on this video. I have COPD, and I evidently forgot to take my breathing treatment this afternoon. And I was running through this video and was on a good roll there, and my lungs reminded me. But anyway, I'm going to start all over again. And basically, we are in week 7. This is session 7, and our topic is going to be feelings. It's going to be the feelings that we have, the importance of them, appropriate ways to handle them, any inappropriate ways to handle them. And this is going to go with the kids and with adults as well. I did find out this week there's one house cleaning thing that I didn't get done. I call it a house cleaning thing because it's kind of like the paperwork and everything we have to do at the beginning of each class. And this was forgotten. It's my fault. I take full responsibility for that. What this form is, and I'm pretty sure we have to do this, it has something to do with our grants that pay for these classes or financially support them. This form has to be filled out by every parent who has a teenager. Teenagers only. And the way I'm handling this, it's gonna be telephone interviews. Each of these interviews are going to take about 15 or 20 minutes. So the way that I think it's going to be the best to handle it is to schedule these phone interviews. If you have the teenager and we need to do the form, if you will text me a day and a time. If it doesn't work for me, we'll work on something that works out for both of us. But that is something that we need to get done. I think there were some other things I said when I was doing this the first time around, and I've forgotten the importance of it. But anyway, along with that, I'll probably think about them in a minute. You guys already know that I'm a little spacey, and I can't wait to get my hair cut. And I forget things, and then they come back to me, and it's just me. Sorry about it. But one thing that, an extra thing on the side, if you want to call it, lesson I wanted to talk to you guys about was credit. I noticed a few weeks ago, and for the past couple of weeks, maybe 2 or 3, I go get my mail, and there's all these credit card offers, and people, we want to loan you money. And, normally around Christmas when people are spending a lot, we see this happening quite often. I didn't realize how bad it was getting until I cleaned out my email this morning. Oh my gosh, it was full. There were emails saying, you began your application. Can we finish up? Never did one. I didn't count, but I'd say if I got 20 emails, about 15 of them were having to do with people wanting to give me credit. And with the virus, I think that's happening a lot right now. These people that have these offers, they're preying on people who are financially unstable, which is what's going on right now with a lot of folks. They get stressed out over their finances. They see these advertisements or emails and, in a split-second decision because they're so stressed and worried. They will immediately take these high-interest loans, these high-interest credit cards, and pay for it later. I took some financing classes in college because I wanted to counsel people who were having a hard time. And the statistics of people who have credit cards is just astronomical. Everybody lives on these little cards. I made that mistake when I was younger, and it took me forever to get out of that credit card debt. And basically, these non-interest, let's use an example. You have a credit card. They tell you that your credit card payment's only going to be $15. Well, you pay your $15, but the next statement, you notice that your balance hasn't really gone down, maybe a few dollars. That's because all the rest of that money that you gave them is doing nothing but covering interest. Nothing. If you need a credit card, and I have one. I have one that I keep for emergencies. Um, I'd rather use my savings account, but I might be out somewhere um, where I don't have that availability. It happened to me one time at Kroger. It was so embarrassing. I went through the line, paid my debit card, it rejected. I didn't know what was going on. And I got my credit card and I used it. Well, come to find out, my debit card had been hacked and they had turned it off without telling me. So you do have some emergency times. But in the long run, when you go for these high interest loans and high interest credit cards, it's going to take you forever to get out of that debt. I just helped a young lady not too long ago. Um, how do I want to call that? She was getting evicted. So I worked through an agency and we were able to prevent that from happening. But in talking to her and interviewing her, that's what she had done. I can't pay my rent this month. So she went out, she got a high interest loan. Well, then the next month she couldn't pay her rent again. So now she's trying to come up with another month's rent and make the loan payment. And that girl, she was in a mess. So I'm just trying to give you all a heads up. When I was saying, if you need a credit card, go through your bank. They're going to have your best choices, and you don't need a high line of credit. Mine, I keep it a small line. Like I said, I'd rather use my savings account than that. If you need to get a loan, go through your bank. Don't go to these high-end places. It's scary, I know, financially. Right now, it's terrifying. A lot of people are unemployed because of it. Some are on reduced paychecks. But I just want everybody to be aware of the dangers of falling into that kind of thing. So just be really very, very careful, okay? But anyway, now we're going to get on into the subject, which is feelings. First thing I want to say, of course, is a lot of this is common sense. We have feelings from the time we get up in the morning until we go to bed at night, every day of our life. They can be feelings of joy, happiness, contentment, love. They can go into anger, feelings of worthlessness. We've talked about that. And the same, those feelings apply to us and our children, adults and children. Remember, they have the same emotions and feelings that you do. They just may be triggered from a different source, I guess is the word I want to use there. But one of the important things that we need to learn is that you need to confront your feelings. You need to confront your emotions. So many people get in so much trouble because they won't deal with that emotion or that feeling as it happens. And it builds. It builds and it builds and it builds. It's like a dynamite. I don't know. Started out that was going to be a good thing. But it's like an explosive. It's small. And as you feed that explosive, it gets worse and it gets worse until it will just explode. When you let your feelings and emotions explode, it causes harm to yourself. It causes harm to everyone around you, whether it be an employer, a spouse, friend, someone you're in a relationship with, your children, people that you come in contact with, maybe store workers, people that you see out in public. Maybe it's the person at the checkout line at the store, and you've let all this build up and they make one simple mistake and you just explode. So it's very important to handle those feelings and emotions, deal with them when they happen. If you have a significant loss, death, or somebody running away that's going to be out of your life from now on. handle that then. You know, that can lead to severe depression if it's not handled appropriately, if it's not dealt with. It can cause huge amounts of stress. And I don't know that we've hit the stress. Yeah, we touched on stress, haven't we? You know, we talked, stress can affect your physical everything, from your sleep, stomach disorders, other emotional disorders, high blood pressure, heart problems. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. And when you let those feelings and emotions build up, it just becomes a huge stressor, a huge stress, not stressor, stress. Be a lot of stress. You know, we're going to talk about different ways that we as adults and our children can handle the emotions and deal with the feelings as they surface. You know, I always talk about the importance of therapy. If you need therapy, by all means, please talk to somebody and get it. I've told you all, we offer free therapy at the Sunshine Center. When we open up, it's going to be more available to everybody. So I think she's doing a little bit on the phone, but we're going to work into that one. Now, another thing that I'm going to start doing, this was suggested by my director, and I so agree with her on this one. During regular classes, we have homework assignments each week. I try to keep them to a minimum because everybody's so busy, but I'm going to start adding a brief homework assignment to every lesson. Now, the best way I was thinking about doing that is what everybody's doing is writing the quiz down on a paper. You know, so on one column you could say quiz, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, which is today. I think I've got 4 today. And then under that you could put homework, and then put your homework assignment answer there, or whatever it may be. And then, so I'm going to be asking for both, the answers to the quiz and your homework assignment. So this week's homework assignment, and I'm going to try to remember to do this at the last of the video as well, I want everybody to think about a feeling that, or an emotion that you have a hard time handling. Say you have difficulty handling anger and you lash out. You do this or you do that. You don't have to tell me in the homework what you currently do. All I want to know is a feeling that you want to change how you respond to. I also want to include the response that you would like to have. So if it's anger, you know, I lash out and I hit. Maybe you want to learn how to respond by deep breathing exercises or whatever. But that's your homework assignment. I want to know a feeling or emotion that you handle incorrectly and want to improve on. Homework assignment done. I feel like such a teacher. Next thing, there is a session where we talk about the brain, and it gets an entire session of its own. I had a hard time teaching that one to another class, really hard time, mainly because I'm sure as heck I'm not a scientist by all means. It was weak subject area for me. But I've noticed through the classes that I'm teaching that a portion of the brain and its development and what it does seem to affect different sessions that we're working on. And this one, I want to use that. It's a diagram of the brain that we typically hand out in class. But there's several parts of the brain. That thing, it does everything. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. But anyway, there's a thing, it's called the temporal lobe. From what I understand on these diagrams, it's kind of like up around here toward the side of your brain. And it says very scientifically that, but the temporal lobe does a lot of its forming, I guess you want to call it, between the ages of birth and 6 years of age. Um, it is the part that that the child is basically showing, show me unconditional love. Show me what that means. I want to see it. I want to feel it. I can understand it now because my brain just formed that part. I want to know it. Um, experience joy with me. You know, we're happy today, and let's have a little tea party or a little whatever boys do, a campfire, or maybe they like tea parties. I don't know. I never did like them. I was kind of a tomboy. Um, talk to me about my emotions. They're ready to handle you talking to them. You know, they're ready to start learning. It's gonna be easier to teach them different ways at this age and on up. From what I'm understanding, it's able to. They learn more and more and more as they age. I guess I'm not doing very good at this, Emma. Told you I wasn't a science person. Um, but another part of it is the brain stem. That's back here. Yeah, back here. Um, it basically, the child is saying, help me feel emotionally and physically safe. I'm frightened or I'm stressed. My brain goes into survival mode, and the rest of my brain can't grow and develop the way it needs to. When I feel safe, I can learn. So that's going to be talking that both those two areas of the brain are going to connect our lesson. I'm sorry, that part of it was boring, had to be done. It's dealt with. You're going to hear more about this brain in different classes. But there are, let's see here. We talked about the confrontation, how important it was. You know, there's many things that trigger our emotions and our feelings. You know, for kids, a lot of it can be discipline. You know, we talked about discipline. We'll talk more about that one. But they're not going to be happy a lot of times when you discipline them, and they will act out. They might temper tantrums. They may hit something or someone. They're going to take it out on whatever they can find to take it out on. Not getting what they want. Adults, we're worse. A whole lot worse. We don't get a promotion. We don't get a new car. We don't get this. We don't get to do that. We handle it just like children. We throw temper tantrums in our own way. I've seen it a lot, especially with drama-rama people. We've already discussed that I cannot stand drama. But anyway, being hurt, you know, physically hurt, emotional hurt, those trigger our feelings. And we act out in different ways. It could be through anger. It could be through crying, screaming. We're going to talk about more different ways. I kind of drew a blank spot there right there for a minute. But what we want to do is teach ourselves how to handle those emotions. I'm hoping this class is going to give you a lot of those ways we can do that. It's also going to help you teach your child. And one thing that I want to say about that one, how much you spoil your child can greatly impact the way that they handle their feelings / emotions. I've seen it. My dad, he spoiled me rotten, but it wasn't physical spoiling. It was not things that broke the rules. If I got mad, if I did this or if I did that, you know, it was stopped right then and there. My dad did not spank. He did not yell. He did not cuss at me, but it was handled right then and there. And if it kept on doing, he kept on pushing. He kept on teaching. And over time, it finally got to me. Not saying that I wasn't an extremely emotional teenager. Boy, was I ever. But, you know, it's the same thing with us. we have to be taught different ways. But anyway, what I was trying to say is we're going to talk about different appropriate ways and inappropriate. Some of the inappropriate ways to handle our feelings is through hitting, whether it's a punch and bite. Well, let's don't go there because I think that's a good outlet. It can go with hitting something. Sometimes you're going to break your knuckles if you do that, and that would very much hurt. Screaming, the tantrums, and then hiding them. Those are all inappropriate ways to deal with that. Let's see here, more on my agenda that I wanted to go through. Then we're going to go mainly with we talked about criticism. The way we criticize others, the way we are criticized, can promote negative ways of handling behavior. When somebody jumps at you and says, I didn't want you to do it this way, you're going to get angry. You might get scared. You might be, all kinds of feelings are going to go along with that. When negative emotions and feelings, you might just jump in there and lash out. And that's going to make that situation a whole lot more difficult. Let's see here. We did that one, yeah. And when we criticize kids, it's very harmful in the way, there's appropriate ways to criticize and inappropriate. I think we've talked about it. If not, we will be talking about it. You can hurt their feelings. You can make them angry. You can cause all kinds of, not good emotions, not good feelings. So be very, very careful in how you do that. I like saying don't criticize. Discuss it. Discuss instead of criticize. I love that. I need to write a book on that one, right? But, you can talk to someone instead of criticizing. I don't like the way you handled this. Let's talk about different ways we can do it. And compromising. Instead of criticizing, try to do those things. When you talk about things, you're least likely to bring out bad emotions and feelings if you simply just talk about them instead of criticizing. I like objective criticism, especially in my work. It helps me be better. If you have somebody in your life that does that, be thankful because that's teaching you. But anyway, I totally got off target there. Let's see. I've got there's other different ways that, I've got another handout that I would normally give out. And it's 5 steps to managing big emotions. These are suggestions. There's some that I've used that I still use. Number 1 is remind yourself that it's never okay to hurt others. If you're someone who has a tendency just to jump and right in there and you've hit somebody or you've said awful comments to someone because you're angry, always take a timeout period for you guys. I do it. It helps me. I don't want to say things because you can't take back words. So when you're taking that brief time out for yourself until you're ready to calmly deal with the situation, just remind yourself it's okay. It's never okay to hurt people. There's other ways that I can handle this. I never disciplined my children without going off somewhere else and calming down. I didn't spank, even if it was a discussion we were going to have. If it was putting out the punishment, I always took time. And I did not approach them until I was completely calm about it. And then we had discussions. And it worked. It worked. I'm not going to say that they were 100% cured of all misbehaviors. I don't think any of us ever are. But take some time out for yourself before you deal with those emotions. Number 2, I love this one. It works. Take 3 deep breaths. It may take more depending on what's made you mad. You might be all day going, but I'm just joking around. But and count slowly. You know, try to get your focus off of what has made you angry, of what has made your emotions just go insane. Um, to just count and breathe and just try to relax and then deal with the situation. Maybe you're filled with full of stress, and before you've dealt with the stress, you go to the you go to the store. The clerk that day is not having a good day, or it's a new trainee and they've made you mad. If they've made you so angry that you feel yourself wanting to lash out, leave the items there, go out to the car, calm down. Having to come back later and get that product is a lot better than hurting somebody else's feelings, or in turn making them mad, and then you're both going at it. The police are called, the ambulance is called, and whew, yeah, that's just me being whatever. Use words to say how I feel and what I wish would happen. Especially teach that to your kids. You know, if you have disciplined them and they're angry, you've taken away their favorite thing, their telephone, a favorite toy, a favorite game, something that they love, you've taken it away from them and they're lashing out. You know, this, I'm pointing out my paper right here. This is the time that talk to them in a way that they can use their words instead of their anger, instead of their angry words, to talk to you. You know, if they start in with a bad conversation, hang on, I need to stop this conversation right now. I'm looking for words that you can say that can be productive, and me and you figuring out a way that we can handle this disciplinary action better. You know, your kid comes home from school and a bully pushed them down and hurt their knees. They're upset, they're hurt. They want to be loved, they want to be comforted. You know, that's your first go-to. Comfort them, you know. Handle bullies through the school. Don't use your child to do that. Go through the school to handle bullies. That was just another little thing that came out of my head. And then you might say, when you're talking to them about bully, explain it. You know, there's some kids that are bullies. I hope that you're never around them, but if you do, they can cause you to be angry. They can cause you to want to lash out. They can cause you fear. They can cause you hurt. What would you like to see happen? Especially that works with discipline. What would you, let's see. What do you wish that can happen when it goes to your disciplinary? That really doesn't make a lot of sense, even when it comes out of my mouth, but it tells me to say it, so I did. It could be with a discipline, you taking their phone for a week. I think all that comes into compromise or whatever to deal with that emotion. Sometimes they're just flat out angry and they don't care. They're just going to be that way. But we're going to talk about ways that you can prevent, you can stop it. And then, of course, we talked about number 5, and that's just calming down. Take time to calm yourself. Teach your child to take time to calm themselves. You know, my oldest son, he had a hard time dealing with anger. I think he was like right at probably a teenager. I want to say maybe 13, 14. He was kind of testing me, how far he could go, how far he could push the limits. And I saw anger in him one day from this. And I mean, first of all, respect is, my children were taught to have a high respect for me and for anybody else they came in contact with. And that was absolutely not going to happen. I didn't have all these wonderful handouts and everything when I was raising my sons. But I did what I told him, made him do what I was taught myself to do. Mine was to go away and calm down. Chris was, I think I've talked about this, he was what I call a super athlete. It came down to the point, it was like, you need to get out of this house now and go run. Run all that off, run your temper off, run this anger off. When you're calm, come back here, let's talk about it. Because that was not going to be dealt with. He did, I don't remember how long, of course, he's kid's in his 30s, it was a long time ago. What happened, I do know one thing that happened, and my oldest son, he did this a lot when he was growing up and as a young adult. If he felt like he disrespected me in any way, whether it was telling a lie or a conversation, he would come to me just crying. So sorry. And, you know, like I said, respect was taught from day one with my children. You know, as he got older, Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't have to bring it up. I didn't have to point it out. Mom, I disrespected you and I'm so sorry. But that worked for him. My youngest son is so laid back. Oh, I wish I could be that way. That child has I've seen anger in him once and he was 3 years old. And that's it. That is it. The kid's in his early 30s and I've never seen anger out of him. He's just a laid back person that I don't know how he deals with his emotions. I know he's very emotionally healthy. I don't know what it is in his life that just makes him that laid back. My oldest son is also that way now. As a teenager, it wasn't quite so much, but as an adult, he's very laid back. I'm getting way off track around on some of this stuff, but you know, we're another thing I want to talk about. This is in my book. I'm going to be going through that book here in just a minute to make sure I didn't leave anything out. A lot of times I can read through things and do an outline, but sometimes I might miss things. So we'll do that in a minute. I talked about too much stress and the way that they can affect our emotions, our anger management, our feelings. And another one that I wanted to talk about is the effects of alcohol and or drugs. They greatly affect the way that you handle feelings and emotions. You've heard of the angry drunk. They get a little alcohol in them or a lot, and they're just angry. They want to be physical. And drugs can do the same thing. And then when you're intoxicated and that anger and inappropriateness comes out, then you take it out on other people, yourself, your children, significant people in your life, family. We're going to have a whole section that we're going to talk about alcohol and drugs. But for here, I just kind of threw that in here because I feel like it's something everybody needs to know and that we need to talk about. When we're stressed, we talked about that. You lash out, and it goes on and on and on. We did that when I talked about that. Got that off my lesson plan. Let's see, we did the brain, confronting your feelings, triggers. Talked about your homework, how to handle it, inappropriate ways, and so forth. Now I'm going to read through, and I think this class might be done a little quicker. Sorry, sometimes my grammar just gets in the way of myself. Let's see. There are, the book talks about different ways that we can build emotional competence. That sounds really technical. How we become competent in how to handle our emotions. That sounds better to me. And let's see. Let's make sure that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. First of all, some of this stuff I may have should have done beforehand, before I started all this. But it's never too late to make it all up, right? But the book lists many, many ways on how we can build emotional competence. I'm only going to talk about three that I felt were the most important. Some of the others, I don't think they're valuable right now. May come later. But the first way, we're going to talk about three of them. The first way is to let your children know that their feelings are okay. They come in from school, they're angry, they're angry because somebody hurt them. They said harmful things and hurtful things to them. Let them know, it's okay. I understand that you're angry. I understand that you're hurt. I understand that. Let's talk about ways that we can deal with that, with those emotions. Let's discuss how we can work it out, what we can do. Number two, label the feeling that you see or think you see. Maybe they worded that all right. Your kid comes in to dinner. They've been outside playing with their friends, and they show up at the table with a scowl. Before the meal starts, you might want to take a minute. I see that you've got a lot of feelings and emotions going through right now. A lot of this stuff sounds so techy. Use it in your own way. I sure as heck wouldn't talk to my kid like that, so formal. But, you look really ticked off right now. What's going on? And then they tell you, and it's like, it's fine to have that one. But once again, maybe before we eat dinner, you and I go sit down and talk about this for just a minute. I want you to enjoy your meal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It goes on and on and on. Number three, do not dominate the conversation. Let your kid talk. Let them talk. Don't just be the mouthy person in the conversation. First of all, you have no idea how they're feeling. You may see their feelings on their face, but you don't know what they're feeling. And you're not going to know what they're feeling unless you listen. I had to take a couple of communication classes in college, especially when I was learning about group counseling and stuff like that. But the biggest part of miscommunication is that people don't shut up. It drives me crazy when I'm in a conversation. I need to tell somebody something, and then they keep jumping in and jumping in and jumping in. They don't know what I need to say. Same thing here. You don't know what your kid is feeling right now. Their look shows they're feeling some anger, but you don't know how deeply that anger goes unless you listen. Listen. It's so vitally important when you communicate, especially to your kids. They are children, but what they are smaller humans. They're just like us. We want to be heard. When we're angry, when we're hurt, when we're stressed, when we're whatever, we want someone to listen to us. Listen to what I've got to say, and then let's have a conversation about it once I'm done. So critical in conversation with your kid and anyone in your life. Try to remember that it's a learning thing. You might be a person that interrupts the conversation all the time. Try to find yourself and stop. When you learn how to deal with that with adults, you're going to deal with it better with your kids. So do not dominate the conversations. That is going to work from when they start talking, all the way through as long as you live, as long as you're a parent. You're going to be doing this. You're going to have adult conversations. And by the way, those are absolutely amazing. I love them. But I have to make sure when I'm talking to them that I don't jump right up in the middle of the conversation and try to pass along my information. Hear people out. Hear what they've got to say. Your kid comes home from school and they've got a bad report card, or the teacher has written a note. They're upset. First thing you want to do is just blast, right? Well, you can't do that. Maybe go calm yourself until you can talk about it. But let your child talk, let them explain. Maybe their explanations are just a way of trying to protect themselves, as you may. I know I did that quite often. My mother knew me very, very well. And my oldest son tried to pull that kind of stuff when he was younger, and it doesn't work. But, with all of our emotions, take the time to listen, let them explain their emotions, then work with them on how to deal with it. Don't say, well, you know what, George or Mary or whoever, that would make me mad too. Tomorrow when you go on that playground, just haul off and punch the daylights out of them. Yeah, that's really bad parenting skills. I hope nobody does that. Um, but, teaching them different ways to handle it. You've got a bully in your class, they're bothering you. It's my responsibility as an adult to go talk, as the parent, the adult, to talk to the school. This is not yours. You're not going to be the snitch. I'm going to make sure of that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, with all kinds of things they learn in life. When you teach your kids appropriate ways to handle feelings and emotions as a child, and you keep following through with that as long as you need to, forever, whatever, you are teaching them to be a better adult. You are teaching them that in the workplace, they're going to have situations and or people that are going to make them very angry. If you start teaching them now, right now, on appropriate ways to deal with these things, they're going to know appropriate ways to deal with them as they occur in adult life. It's going to help them when they go to the shopping market on not taking their anger out on other people. Somebody's tailgating you and you want to throw up that finger. Nowadays you might get shot, so don't do that. But you're going to help them. That's the part of what we talk about is helping our children thrive. That's a very important one. If they cannot learn to handle their emotions, their feelings appropriately, horrible things can happen. They can be in jail. They could severely hurt someone. You can get domestic violence from these types of things where kids aren't taught how to handle their feelings. My ex-husband was abusive and he learned it from his father. In those days, that's what men did. They didn't teach them different ways to handle their anger and their stress. And before you know it, you've got a child that is that's involved in domestic violence, the perpetrator. And it will make, when you learn how to handle your emotions appropriately, you're going to have a much better life. I assure you of this. You're not going to have stress because of anger and emotions and feelings. You're going to feel physically better. Your mental state is going to be absolutely amazing. Planning revenge in your mind and this and that, all these things that your brain can just start doing when you're angry with someone and someone's hurt you and I'm going to get them back one day. Before you know it, you're totally consumed by that. And then you end up being physically sick, mentally sick. So learn how to manage these things. If you need help with anger management, if you know that's one of your problems, call somebody, a therapist, a specialist in that area. Learn how to handle it. Googling, doing research, finding ways that you can help yourself get away from these angers. You do not want your children being raised by someone who is always angry, who is always plotting revenge, who takes their anger out on other people. Also, make sure that you teach them. We've talked about this right here now I think, a few minutes ago, whatever. Again, you're going to have feelings go on and on. We talked about from the time you get up until you go to bed 7 days a week. Just let your kids know it's great to have feelings. It's great to have this, great to have that. And I think I probably bled this thing dry. Absolutely don't know much else that we talked about emotional energy. Another thing, oh yeah, here's another thing that they were telling me to talk about is praising your kids when they handle their expressions, their emotions, their feelings well. You know, I was outside playing with whatever. They made me so mad, Mom or Dad. But I did what you taught me to do. I've come inside. I'm going to calm down for a while. Then I'll go back out and play. Let them know that you're proud of them for what they did. You know, I am so proud of what you've done. You know, this is amazing. I wasn't quite sure that you were understanding and taking in everything I was saying or just ignoring me. And I'm so proud of you for doing this. So I think that's all that I've left out. We've talked about the importance. I think I've bled this thing as dry as I can bleed it. So now we're going to go on to the, told you guys we might finish a few minutes early. As always, if you have problems, if you have anything you want to talk about, if you want conversations relating to this session or any others, always feel free to call me. Text me. It's easier to get through me by texting me. Sometimes people just they'll text me and say, give me a call. I don't pack my phone everywhere I go. But anyway, if you need to have conversation, if anything is going on that you feel like I can help with, please ask me. You know, I've had a couple of people from the class, this class and another class, that have talked to me and texted me and called me about different things that were going on in their life, things they wanted to talk about. I love to take the time out and help as much as I can. So always feel free to do that, okay? Don't forget, if you have teenagers, we need to schedule that phone interview. Shoot me a text. Let me know what time is easier, what day is easier for you. I can work my phone call even though I'm busy. If I know that I need to talk to you, say, on Thursday at 4 o'clock, I'm going to block that time out. If at all possible, I'm going to block that time out. And we're going to just do these by appointments, okay? So let me know if we need to go through this phone interview, all right? I really appreciate it. Second, the next thing we're going to talk about, I told y'all that I would remind you, this is homework that you're actually going to turn in via text. Like I said, it'll be easier. Put it all on the same piece of paper that you do the answers to the quiz and send it all to me at once. This doesn't have to be, you don't have to write a book. It doesn't have to be 3 or 4 paragraphs. You know, just with some people, I do want more than just one statement. But the homework again is text me about a feeling that you respond to inappropriately, that you want to change how you respond. You know, a couple of sentences that works for me, just so I know you're doing the homework. I'm trying to make these homework things that will make you think, to look inside yourself and say, I really do have a problem with handling my anger. I have a problem with this. I have a problem with that. It will help you, make you think about yours and what you want to work on to make better. Anyway, here we go. What everybody loves, the quiz. There's only 4 of them. I'll repeat them twice. I'm going to try to word these in decent ways you can understand. If not, always text me and say, Sharon, that didn't make a bit of sense to me at all. I can handle it. Okay, number 1. I talked about 3 different ways to build emotional competence. I want you to name me one of those. Once again, I talked about 3 different ways that help build emotional competence. Name one. Number 2, I want you to name me one inappropriate way to handle feelings. I'd rather you use that one from the video. Well, yes, I am going to say that. I was going to say come up with your own, but I want to know that you've watched the video. And that's all these are for, is to justify to all the higher powers that if you've done what you're supposed to be doing. But anyway, name one inappropriate way to handle feelings or emotions. Number 3, how can spoiling a child promote bad expressions of feelings? You know, there's something I guess I didn't add in there that just popped in my head now. I've seen this happen in adults quite often. I particularly found it to be a major concern for people who adopt children. I'm adopted, and amazingly, it was wonderful. I just love it, love it, love it. But my parents treated me as if they had given birth to me. I was not spoiled other than through love and affection. You know, I was taught, I was disciplined, and I've had discussions, or I've been around a few people that were adopted, and that didn't happen for them. You know, some people who adopt children are so extremely excited that they've got this child. Well, all adoptive parents are, but they will take it to the extreme. They'll basically let that kid get by with anything. And then they grow up and they go out in the world, and we all get to deal with them, which is not a lot of fun. But yeah, that was just an example I was going to show about spoiling. But anyway, back to number 3. How can spoiling promote bad expressions of feelings? Number 4, name one way that stress affects how we handle feelings. Number 4, again, name one way that stress affects how we handle feelings. And this week's is finished. Like I said, if you have questions, anything you want to talk about, if you have problems with anything that is said in the video, problems with the quiz, always let me know. I try to be available as long as I can, you know, through the day. I really don't like taking phone calls and stuff after about 11. I stay up very, very late. But after 11, it's kind of like, world, leave me alone now, I'm done. But anyway, I hope that you guys have a really good week. I want to thank you for all your responses to these videos. I never have to deal with anybody being late. That means a lot to me, and I just want to thank you all so much for the way you're doing these things and complying. Anyway, have a great week, and I will talk to you guys later.